ago. Rose, who was also close friends with my grandmother, was like family to me. The thought of anything happening to her was something I didn't want to even consider. "She's all right," Liz said, and I pictured her gesturing with one perfectly manicured hand. Someone hit her over the head and knocked her out. I think that hard noggin of hers is what saved her. I swallowed down the lump in my throat. "You're sure she's okay?" I heard her exhale. "I promise," she said softly. Elvis put his paws on my leg, his eyes locked on my face. He adored Rose, too. Without thinking about it, I began to stroke his fur. "What happened? Where was she? I thought she was here," I said. Here was my house, a 2-story restored Victorian from the 1860s within walking distance of downtown North Harbor. It was divided into 3 apartments. Elvis and I lived in the front main floor unit. Rose had recently taken over the small back apartment, and Graham, when she was home, lived upstairs. On paper it didn't sound like it should work, but so far it had. "She wasn't mugged," Liz said. "Not exactly. Remember the man who came into the shop this afternoon and wanted to have those candlesticks delivered to his wife?" I pressed the heel of my hand against my forehead. Tell me she didn't do what I think she did. I owned a repurpose shop, Second Chance, with an eclectic selection of merchandise, much of it given new life, a second chance, in our workspace. Rose worked part-time for me. "Oh, yes, she did. She went over to that cottage to deliver those candlesticks, and I have the damn things, by the way." I could hear the click of Liz's high heels. She was probably walking in a hospital corridor, I realized. "She gave in too easy, you know," she continued. "We should have known. Rose has a stubborn streak a mile wide. And before you start on about people in glass houses throwing stones, I'm going to remind you that I am not stubborn. I'm persistent, which is a completely different thing." "Noted," I said. I wasn't going to argue over word choice. Liz was just as stubborn as Rose was, which meant their long-time friendship got contentious at times, but this wasn't the time to point that out. "I'm on my way," I said. "You're at Northeastern?" "The ER, just ask at the desk," she said. "I better get back. Alfred could probably use some moral support." "Okay, I'll be there soon," I said. Elvis had already jumped down from the chair and started for the living room. I turned off the TV and stood up. Liz had said Rose was all right. That was what mattered. It took me only a couple of minutes to pull on a pair of jeans and grab my purse and keys. Elvis watched me from the top of his cat tower. "I'm just going to make sure Rose is okay and I'll be back," I told him. He bobbed his head as though he were saying that was fine with him, and for all I knew, maybe he had understood every word I'd said, and that was exactly what he meant. Northeastern Medical Center is a 99-bed full-service hospital with a trauma center just off the highway exit for North Harbor. It's one of the top-rated hospitals in the state of Maine. As I drove, I realized I hadn't asked Liz how Rose had gotten from the cottage on the shoreline, where I was fairly certain she'd been assaulted, to the health center. Liz had mentioned Alfred, who was Rose's gentleman friend, but she hadn't said anything about whether Rose's children, who didn't live in North Harbor, had been called. Knowing Rose, I was pretty certain the answer to that was no. In fact, I was surprised Rose had called anyone at all. Liz was right about Rose's stubbornness. I'd seen that dogged streak in action enough times. I should have known that just because she seemed to acquiesce when I asked her not to deliver those candlesticks, that didn't mean I'd won the battle. Why had someone attacked Rose if it wasn't for the 2 silver candlesticks she had with her? They were antiques, made by S. Kirk & Son more than a century ago. Kirk had learned the silversmith trade in Philadelphia and then opened a shop in Baltimore. His work was exquisite and in demand by collectors all over the United States and beyond. Finding them for the store had been nothing short of serendipity. I'd gone up to an auction in Bangor and at the end of the day bid on the contents of a sealed cardboard box. It wasn't the kind of thing I ever did, but I'd been with my best friend Jess, who had encouraged me after 2 other boxes had gone for $25 and $32 respectively. "Go for it. What have you got to lose?" she'd whispered in my ear. "I could lose $32. I'd hissed back at her. "So bid less," Jess had retorted. And before I'd really thought about it, I'd raised